So you were getting ready to tell me about the trip to San Francisco or what's for bread.
Tasting sourdough bread 20 years ago, and knowing I had to have that in my life. I had to have sourdough in my life, and I was going to have to make it myself. Also, the desire to master the process is important to me, and it's definitely a scientific process. The process of artisan breads is to grow your own wild yeast as opposed to commercial yeast. It gives you more complex flavor, and it provides a nice chewy crust to the product. We also, therefore it's a very slow process. It takes at least 15 hours for the bread to proof in a cold environment, as does wine and cheese, about 55 degrees. The cold proofing allows the complex flavors to build in the breads before it's proofed and ready to go into the oven. And then to feed the levains and the pâtés, which are the pre-fermented doughs, they need to be fed fresh food and water, fresh flour and water every 12 hours. So therefore, that's another cycle that is ongoing in the bakery process, is to keep those fresh before they go into the final breads. The process of artisan bread making and cold proofing is healthier, it's more digestible for consumption, and it allows moisture retention in the loaf so that you're not forced to put in added fats, oils, and preservatives. So most of our loaves are flour, water, yeast, and salt, perhaps some nuts, and perhaps some added fruits or cheeses. We made a connection with a local farmer growing spelt flour in the area through a local co-op movement, and we are and then these grains are being milled locally as well, and then we are making spelt loaves from this stone ground flour. It's all very fresh, all the nutrients are intact, and it's very, very healthy. Spelt flour is very healthy for you, especially if it's not aged and used fresh from the farm to the mill to the bakery.
You know, what's really exciting about this project is having the opportunity to work locally. My wife and I believe so strongly that a key solution to so many of our nation's problems is to restore rural economies. We actually have more prisoners in this country than we do farmers. There's been a constant decline both in the number of farmers and the erosion of capital that farmers have to work with. And so one remedy for that is to produce food locally and process it locally and prepare it locally. And so our contribution to this is the production of the spelt, and to produce the most nutrient-dense spelt that we possibly can, and knowing then that we're employing people locally and using resources locally, because 45 cents of every dollar that's spent locally is kept in the local community. And when you start to buy from corporate chains, a mere fraction, about 15 cents of that remains in your local economy. So it's equally exciting, though, that then the miller is in Greenville, right here in our county, and they too have the capacity to mill it the best way possible in terms of the nutrient preservation of it, done with the stone mill, a historic mill, and then equally how it's prepared locally. So we always talk about those three P's of produced, processed, and prepared properly. And this allows us to gain that advantage. And even though we had been shipping our spelt all the way down to Texas every year. It was convenient. The big truck would pull up next to the bins here. We'd turn on the switch, dump out 25 tons of spelt, and away it would go, and we collected the check. But that is so shallow. There's a book written by Joseph McKibben of Deep Economy, and he speaks about how we look at food determines whether or not we grow deep roots in our community or shallow roots. And by these deep roots, it allows us to build that relationship with not only the miller and the baker, but of course, as we direct sell these products also, with the customer. So the more that we can attach a food or a face to our food, the more we strengthen our local communities, because we're a people in America that's so disconnected, and there's consequences to being disconnected. We don't support each other like we should in so many aspects of our lives, and we know that our ancestors of years ago were so much better connected, and food was a key connection point for all that. So that as we return to that notion of food being a means to connect our community and to restore our health and to restore our planet, there's win-win-wins all over the place.